There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, boa noite, Munson here with a Good Evening Portugal special, really. That's the trailer for our Good Morning Portugal show, which you can see every weekday morning. Last one of the year tomorrow. We'll have a great sing-song with Emma Belter Williamson and in the company of Uncle Frank as well. Lots of fun in the morning, but a little bit more serious tonight. We're talking tonight, we have a message for British and UK nationals in Portugal on how to go about going into the new year correctly. And getting legal in Portugal. And I was prompted to do this because I saw a very helpful post from Tig James, a name you might be familiar with. If you use social media and you're a Brit in Portugal, you may well have seen Tig's name popping up here and there. And she wrote a really helpful message, which was posted in a number of groups. And we've also cut and pasted it onto our website as well. So let me just share that with you now to set the scene. Good evening to you if you're joining us and you are looking for help in converting your previously legal status as a Brit or a UK national here in Portugal, and you want some help converting to the new post-Brexit scenario. It's been a mild day here in Portugal, but part of the fun this evening may well be watching flies that seem to have hatched out today in this milder weather. Incredible for the 22nd of December, but we have a plague of flies in the house, which could be added value for you tonight if you look closely at my capacious forehead and with the flies in the room using it as a landing strip. Anyway, the all-important portal starting point for starting this process, if you haven't already done it, and we'll find out that many haven't this evening. So first thing to do, I suppose, is if you are anxious, if you are procrastinating, perhaps this session, this live stream might be the moment in which you say, okay, enough is enough. I need to crack on with this, and let's hope that we can help you this evening. I have, so you know, I have my CEF appointment next week between the Christmas and New Year holidays here in Portugal. I'll be going to Porto next week to have my appointment with CEF, and I will document and report on it, and I will do my utmost to help you, because that's what the Good Morning Portugal community is all about, is helping people to, well, enjoy their life here in Portugal. And of course, part of enjoying your life is having a hassle-free, stress-free life in Portugal and not having to worry too much about whether you're fully legal and you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. So let's have a look at, I need to have a cough first, actually. I'm still struggling. If you could get ready to give me messages of condolence now, that would be excellent with this terrible man flu that I've been experiencing. I should say sympathy, shouldn't I, rather than condolence. It's not that bad. But good evening to you. And yes, just bear that in mind if that affects your listening pleasure in any way. My continued battle against man flu is still with me this evening, but I should do my best to battle through in a manly way. Okay, we have a company already. Good evening to you, Paul. Thank you for joining us. I suspect, as a man who likes to dot his I's and cross his T's, you're well up to speed with all of this, but you don't have to say. That is entirely your business, as it is anyone else tuning in. And if you want to get in touch with me separately, you can email me at carl@goodmorningportugal.com if you do want some help. We are launching a service tonight to help people with support and consultancy who might find themselves in this position of procrastination or technological incompetence, because that's another reason why some people haven't done what they're supposed to do, and that will become increasingly difficult and challenging. You won't be legal after a while if you haven't gone through this process, as I understand it, and as we'll find out from the article that I'm going to share with you. But first, I need to cough, so hold on a minute. There you go. I spared you that. Let's have a look at this article now, shall we? More of a message from Tig James, and I cut and pasted this from expats in Portugal, which is, well, as I understand it, a part of expatfocus.com. But I think Tig posted this in a number of social media platforms and sites yesterday with her concern about Brits and UK nationals here in Portugal. And this is what she said. Yesterday, I had a long discussion with the British Embassy, who've asked me to inform UK nationals of the current situation in Portugal and for me to make several requests. Now, I don't know in what capacity, and I'm reading this from our Good Morning Portugal HQ website news desk, which you might like to bookmark for news of this kind. And I'll do my utmost to stay across this so that Brits, my fellow Brits here in Portugal, are fully up to speed with what's going on. I don't know what capacity Tig James connects with the British Embassy and makes this available to people. I suspect it's out of a general concern and being a good egg. But I don't, as far as I know, I'm not sure she has any official capacity in relation to the British Embassy, who we have spoken to as Expats Portugal in the past. I've had calls with the ambassador and with members of staff, and we've done webinars, which you can see on the Expats Portugal YouTube channel. Anyway, yesterday, Tig had a long discussion with the British Embassy, who've asked her to inform UK nationals of the current situation in Portugal and for her to make several requests. Here they are. At the end of 2020, approximately 46,000 UK nationals were registered as legally resident in Portugal. By the end of the same year, only around 36,000 had registered on the Brexit portal so as to receive the withdrawal agreement biometric card. And this is an acronym that will come up during the course of our conversation and in this process of you becoming fully legal as a post-Brexit Brit here in Portugal. The WABC, which is the withdrawal agreement biometric card. In total, there are around 37,000 UK nationals now registered on the portal, which would include those who arrived towards the end of 2020 prior to Brexit being implemented. We're aware that a number of UK nationals have left Portugal, and indeed quite a few did prior to Brexit taking place. However, 10,000 UK nationals not having registered on the Brexit portal is a large number of people, and we believe far exceeds the amount that have actually left. We are aware of 5 main reasons, and we'll go through those this evening. I'm only intending to be here for 30 or 40 minutes. If people want to talk more, that's fine. But that's that. If you want to know how long you have to wait before you go eat your dinner or something like that, I'm thinking 30 or 40 minutes, unless things get particularly spicy and interesting, and then I might stick around. But I'll aim to deliver this message fairly promptly this evening. But you know how that can go if you're a regular on the Good Morning Portugal show in the mornings. Okay, so number one of the 5 main reasons why people have not registered, we are hearing that people believe I guess this is the British Embassy and Tig who've put this message together in that royal we. We are hearing that people believe if they have been resident in Portugal for a long time, they do not need to register on the Brexit portal. I have heard this a few times, says Tig, and it is very much not the case, emphasizing it is not the case. Just because you've lived here a long time doesn't mean you don't have to go through this process. Anyone, in capital letters, if they were resident in Portugal prior to 2021, regardless of the length of residency in Portugal, even if you have been a resident for 50 years, for example, must register on the Brexit portal to obtain the QR code. The QR code then initiates the process whereby CEF send an email in order for you to book an appointment to obtain the WABC, the biometric card. Now, that's where I'm at personally. Not that I've been here for 50 years or don't believe that I need to get one of these cards, but I traded my what used to be called the CRUE, I think, the CRUE, the piece of paper that had the yellow stars of the EU on it that you would get from your local camera after you were meant to report there within 90 days of being here as a Brit. And I've converted that piece of paper, or added to that piece of paper, a QR code, which I was able to do fairly easily online. And I say that because I want to be encouraging to people who've not done that yet and tell you that it's not an especially onerous task, and we will do our best to help you. I'm sure as a community, as a Good Morning Portugal community, and me and Mrs. M can help you with that if you want to work one-to-one and you're feeling a little bit frightened, basically. Some people are real technophobes, aren't they? And just the very thought of going online and doing something like this and working with a foreign bureaucracy strikes fear into the hearts of many people. So we'll do our best to help you with that. Okay, so the QR code then initiates the process whereby CEF, and that is the, we should do some jargon busting and some acronym busting, shouldn't we? CEF is the the border force, if you like, of Portugal that manages the incoming migration of foreigners. Okay, SEF. And to give you a bit of background on that, SEF have been in disarray for some, well, I think 2 years now. They faced dissolution and they have been dissolved, I think officially, after some controversy and some terrible things that happened with notably one foreigner in SEF custody at the airport, which left a very dark reputation for SEF, which is then disbanded and dissolved. And I think the name will change, and the some of the people will change, and the collection of organizations working under that umbrella will change, and that is work in progress at the moment. There's one of those flies that I was talking about earlier. Okay, so SEF have got their own work in progress in reformation, having been dissolved and having a pretty bad last few years. And of course, it's not only the Brits that they're dealing with the post-Brexit process. They're dealing with all the usual visas, the D7s, the new digital nomad visa, and all their other day-to-day business of helping people in and out of the country. So SEF, bear that in mind. You know, the backstory for SEF is not an easygoing or pleasant one at the moment. So number 2 of the 5 main reasons why people haven't registered, and the people we're talking about here are the Brits. If you're American watching this is not, you're very welcome to watch, but this is not your way of entry in, and it needn't concern you here. This is particularly for UK British passport holders who have been here in Portugal before Brexit and need to change the basis upon which they are here and trade up to this WABC, the biometric card. Number 2, then, of the 5 main reasons why people haven't registered, people believe because they already have an in-date EU residency document or card, that they do not need to obtain a WABC card, the biometric card. The original residency documentation people are in possession of is for EU citizens only. And we're no longer EU citizens, us Brits. We are now called third country nationals. Sorry, not third party. Well, we are in a way, but we're called third country nationals. And this form of identification will very shortly be no longer valid for UK nationals. That might come as a rude awakening for some. Many institutions in Portugal will not accept the EU residency documentation in UK nationals' possession, nor will many Schengen area border guards. It is essential people register on the Brexit portal and obtain this new WABC, which is the withdrawal agreement biometric card. Now, I think I should put that in as a bit of jargon busting and a bit of context into the chat, which I will do for you now to let you know what the WABC is. I can see that people are tuned in. You may catch this later on when it's not live, wanting to know what to do. But do say hi this evening, and feel free, if you feel comfortable to do so. If you've got any questions about this, just pop them in the chat, or email me separately, and I'll also put my email address inside the chat as well, so that you can get in touch with me separately if you prefer not to air your dirty linen in public. Which is something I tend to do every morning with Mrs. M on the Good Morning Portugal show. There you go, Carl at goodmorningportugal.com if you want to get in touch with me privately. And I will not be exposing your story on the Good Morning Portugal show or on the YouTube channel, certainly not without your permission. You may think that it's useful information at some point to share with others, and would be glad to collaborate with you, but anything sent to me in the first instance is in complete confidence, and we will do our best to help people in this predicament that we're talking about this evening. And we don't speak as lawyers or experts in the sense of professional experts in this regard. Any help we give you with this will be as fellow Brits and people who offer a consultancy service for people interested in moving to Portugal or who are living here in Portugal. That's what we do as Good Morning Portugal. You have the ultimate and final responsibility for your legal status here. We will be making no guarantees of that kind whatsoever. Our expertise, if we have any, comes in our own personal experience and having worked with other people in a similar situation. So there are no guarantees with this. It is a matter between you, ultimately, and it's your responsibility to figure this out with the Portuguese government. But that's not to say this community and me and Louisa Munson can't help you with some of the blockages, personal and technological, along the way. Leslie's here as well this evening. Good evening to you, Leslie. Thank you for joining us. So let's get back to these reasons why people have not registered on the portal for post-Brexit Brits. Number 3, then, the majority of the advertising information given regarding the WABCs has been on social media. Well, I think you know where this might be going. There are many people who either are not comfortable or don't have the knowledge or are unable to use social media or do not have access to the internet who will be unaware of the importance of being in possession of the WABC biometric card. And so, I mean, there's that side of it, isn't there? Some people just don't use social media, don't want to, can't, and haven't got that sort of access they for all sorts of reasons. But also, on social media is where you'll find contrary and contradictory information about the situation. So social media can be useful sometimes. Maybe it's an 80-20 rule. It's 20% of it is useful and gives you 80% value, whereas 80% of it is utter rubbish and causes you 20% of your quality of life, or something like that. Point 4, then, of why some UK nationals haven't registered, haven't got their backsides into motion and gear. Some UK nationals do not think getting a WABC applies to them, or they can't be bothered to do it. Now, there will be those, of course. If a UK national arrived in Portugal prior to 2021, then it does apply to them, and they must register on the Brexit portal, according to TIG and the British Embassy here, and that's whose message I'm relaying this evening, and get the WABC. As far as the latter group is concerned that can't be bothered, there is little I can say, says TIG, other than it matters very much that they do so, and at their own risk if they don't, I suppose. Number 5, some UK nationals are disabled and are unable to attend the locations they've been offered on the CEF website. Now, this has been a bit of a problem for people, and this happens with D7 visas, that you might get a couple coming from who are from the United States who get offered appointments at different ends of the country on the same day. CEF seem quite unsympathetic and insensitive to those sorts of needs. Not always, it has to be said. They've got work to do, and they're dealing with thousands of people, so you can understand it from their point of view. So be patient with the folks at CEF. It doesn't help if you get agitated and angry with Portuguese bureaucrats and officials, of course. And we had some great advice from the wonderful João Oliveira, whose conversation, who I had a conversation with on Monday, is well worth a listen, talking about the bureaucrats, the people who work in admin of the Portuguese institution and establishment, talking how to approach those folks. So that's well worth checking out, that conversation that I had with him on Monday. He's a Portuguese man. He understands their situation, and it gives us some great tips on how to approach them. So yeah, there is this problem of not being able to get to a location. I'm traveling from São Martinho de Porto on the Silver Coast up to Porto because of the address that CEF have on file for me. I believe that's why they've done it that way, and they're working on an old address, and that will give me a chance to give them my current address when I see them. I've got my current address on some of my paperwork. It gets messy. It does get messy, and I'll get a chance. What I did was recently go to Caldas de Rainha, hoping that there might be a CEF official at Caldas de Rainha who might be able to help me change my address and therefore change my location of my meeting. I was told quite quickly in Caldas de Rainha that I was a rich man. And I thought to myself, hold on a minute. Why am I a rich man? What do they know about me? Have they been keeping records, and have they got the wrong information here? You're a rich man because you've got a CEF appointment, is basically what the lovely folks said at the Loja Cidadão in Caldas de Rainha said to me. Take it with both hands. You're a rich man because people would buy that appointment from you. Is what they said. Sorry, just tweaking my green screen there. There's too much of my room showing behind the scenes, but I don't want to tweak the screen too much because my camera is precariously balanced. All it might take is for that fly to land. I'll just leave it as it is. Don't mess with that live, Carl. So they urged me to make the journey, and I am. I'm going on. I'm going to go by coach between Christmas and New Year. A 6 o'clock in the morning coach from São Martinho de Porto. Very good value at around €16, I think. And will have me in Porto for a late breakfast, and I'll go to the Loja de Cidadão there and get my photo taken and go through the rest of this process. So that's where I'm at with it. And I do understand how challenging it has been for some people, especially if they're disabled and or infirm, traveling around to the other parts of the country to try and get this done. However, in that regard, what Tig is saying here is that if that is the case for you and you're disabled or in some way unable to attend the location you've been offered, you can obtain a doctor's letter stating the situation and email it to the email address that we will give you as well tonight, brexit@cef.pt. Good luck with how quickly that's dealt with and whether it's dealt with at all. I'm not being negative. You may have to do a lot of work to have that read, understood and processed, but at least if you email them, you've got a paper trail. That's really important as well. But if that is the case for you, obtain a doctor's letter stating the situation and email it to the email address that I will give you in just a moment, brexit@cef.pt, explaining in the email the circumstances then as per the FAQs on the CEF website. You'll be contacted and this issue will be addressed with you. So let me just put that onto the screen as well, because I think that's a useful email address. Brexit@cef.pt there. That's going onto the screen now so you can see it. Don't worry too much about the capital B. I don't think that makes any difference. Hi, Carl. We received our biometric cards last week. Fairly easy system to follow. See, there's some nice encouragement. Fairly easy system to follow as long as you have all the right documents. Well, what were the right documents, please, Facebook user? That'll be really, it's all very well saying right documents. Can you let us know? And already my heart missed a beat thinking, oh my God, am I taking my filing cabinet with me there? Pete, good evening to you. Glad you have your CEF appointment soon, mate. It's a very easy process and we love having a card. Yes, that means we don't need a folder of documents. That is one of the top benefits, I would have thought, Pete. I've been carrying my passport around with me for the last 5 years and it's looking a little bit dog-eared. Is that the right word? And it's got my crew paperwork folded up inside it, which I've been carrying around with me. And I agree with you. It will be great to be able to just have one plastic card with my photo on. Just make sure you log on to create your payment details and pay it quickly. And we'll have a very quick look at that website or parts of it. It's very difficult for me to share it on screen without giving away a load of personal details. But you'll get the gist when I show you in just a moment. Brexit@cef.pt is the email address. What was this? Is this? Oh yeah, €15 each for a 5-year card. They seem to be issuing these instead of the 10 years. Now that's another little bit of contention there. I've heard, and again, yeah, I have to say this was on social media, that they are obliged to give you a 10-year card, or some people were saying. But I mean, maybe now is not the time to argue about that. It looks like Pete walked away with a 5-year card there. And it may differ from office to office whether you get a 5 or 10-year card, or indeed, as happens in Portugal, on the discretion of the official you're dealing with, because they're powerful people. There is the law, and there is the bureaucratic personal interpretation of the individual operative, which you will find from time to time here in Portugal. And if you haven't got a lawyer with you saying, actually, no, that isn't how we do it. And Portuguese people seem quite happy with that sort of challenge. But as a foreigner, you're probably not going to be saying, actually, no, that's incorrect. Even though the Portuguese person might take it quite well culturally, you might not feel like you've got a legal leg to stand on. Well, not a legal leg to stand on, but a confidence leg to stand on there. So perhaps that seems perfectly well and good to just settle for the 5-year card. Although there has been talk of 10-year cards. Others in the audience may be able to answer that, comment on that, address that. And certainly if you're not watching this live, perhaps you could do so. Anything that will help this community here with this process. Right documents are 2 key words here. What were those right documents, Facebook user? Carl H., thank you for being here, a regular on the Good Morning Portugal show in a monthly residency. The Englishman in Lisbon is with us. When dealing with government officials, my advice is to be patient, friendly, but also persistent. They do like to brush you off if they think they can get away with it. And between you and me, I booked my appointment just before lunchtime, which I thought might be strategically useful. I'd also advise, unless, of course, they get the last laugh and say, we're closing now for lunch. You'll have to go and have lunch yourself and come back later. But we shall see. I'd also advise taking someone who speaks native level Portuguese if you can. Well, that's good advice. I don't think that's going to be me next week, but thank you for that advice, Carl H. And that said, I've had both good and bad experiences when dealing with the bureaucracy. Haven't we all, Carl? I think that's possibly a takeaway tonight. You win some, you lose some. And what Joao Oliveira was saying to me on Monday, as well as maybe saying your hair looks nice today, and realizing that the people who do work in bureaucracies all over the world, their dreams might have died. You might be talking to somebody who's made the trade of giving up on their life dreams to pay the mortgage. And, that is a predicament in the modern world, isn't it? And when you're dealing with people in that condition, they may not be the most helpful sometimes or positive. They might be quite resentful and grumpy, and they might not like the cut of your jib when you're coming in here with your newfangled biometrics and all that sort of stuff. So you've got to understand it from a human psychology point of view, haven't you, as well? And be nice, be kind, compliment them, try and speak a bit of Portuguese. And the other thing Joao Oliveira said was, if you get the knockback, take it in your stride. You might have to go back and accept that you might have to go back. And it is a process, a cultural process of getting used to. That's a Portuguese man talking. If you can't get it done on the first time, don't get mad and angry. Do your best, be persistent, be kind, be generous, be happy, be positive and upbeat. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And you may have to go back. I think that's part of what Carl H is saying here. I don't know anyone of the 20 plus people we know that got a 10-year card, even those with 10 years before. I think it's because they can charge more. Oh, okay. So the business model is if they're charging you 15 euros every 5 years instead of every 10 years, they're doubling up on the money there. That's a plausible theory there, Pete. Thank you very much for that. Okay. 5 then. I think we covered that, didn't we? About being disabled or unable to attend. Those are the reasons there then. Should I recap on those? That some people don't... some people think they've been here so long that they don't have to do it. Wrong. If I had maybe I've got a little jingle for that. It's not quite right, is it? But no, just because you've been here a long time doesn't mean you don't have to go get your WABC, your withdrawal agreement biometric card. All Brits who were here before Brexit and want to stay here basically have to go and get the card and exchange their old-fashioned paperwork and previously their QR code for the nice new shiny plastic card that Pete is proudly in possession of. Number 2 then, because you've got an in-date EU residency document or card, you don't have to do it. That's also wrong. That will no longer be recognised by other EU officials. And my guess here is that moving around Europe might become more challenging in due course. There is, of course, not just the Portuguese border authority that you'll be dealing with, but if you are a resident of Portugal and you have the benefit thereof of moving around the Schengen area, that doesn't mean you won't get challenged by other border officials of individual countries. It's a federation, isn't it? So you are subject to the federal benefits and limitations of the EU area as a Portugal resident. But also, it's a federation of individual countries with their own little twist and cultural flavor on their individual border patrol. And we all know what that's like, don't we, to go into an airport and you walk through the little booth there and present yourself. No longer will it be possible to use your EU citizen card if you manage to get one as a Brit. You will need the WABC. Okay, there is a group that can't be bothered. And there are people who don't feel comfortable or have the knowledge or are unable to use social media. I'm afraid that's not an excuse either. Neither of those are points 3 and 4. Basically, you've got to overcome yourself. And as I said before, we'll do our best to help you. Let's say you're an elderly person with a bad case of technophobia, just drop us a line and we'll do our best to help you. Or watch the Good Morning Portugal show and keep us updated. Step by step with these things. The community will help you, and me and Louisa can help you as well in cases of technophobia or absolute terror sometimes, being in a foreign country, having let things slip. I'm in this situation personally with taxation affairs, a mixture of personal incompetence and a system I don't understand, and not even the Portuguese people do. And not even my accountant, I think, understands it fully. This happens. It happens. It's life. It's life in Portugal. And the only way to do it is to do it. You can only procrastinate for so long, and at some point you'll have to deal with it. And that's not the easiest thing to hear, is it? But it is the truth. Some UK nationals are disabled then and are unable to attend locations. You can get a change of location if you write to Well, you might be able to get a change of location, I should say, if you email brexit@cef.pt. On the matter of family reunification, those waiting for the family reunification process to take place will be pleased to learn, says Tig, it is commencing this week. And this was published a few days ago. So going into 2023 with some reunification appointments. All members of a family who are waiting for their UK national relative to obtain their WABC biometric card, and those family members, regardless of nationality, already hold some form of residency documentation for Portugal, whether expired or not. And the following action may now take place. The UK national holding the WABC may now go to the CEF website and on their CEF account, register their family members requiring family reunification. So there you go. That's amazing, isn't it? That's a very generous benefit that's been extended there by the Portuguese. Those family members that have never had residency documentation in whatever form, representations are being made in the strongest terms that this process is started as soon as possible too. Is that some ambassadorial saber rattling? So family members that have never had any residency documentation, and some people will have found themselves in that situation. It looks like the British government are working with the Portuguese government to make something happen. A bit of background then, and to conclude then this evening. At the moment, there are approximately 500 CEF appointments for these types of transformations from the QR code to the plastic card. That have not been taken up. There are approximately 500 CEF appointments that have not been taken up. So there you go. There is capacity. That's also not an excuse now then. I have been informed that CEF appointments, says Tig, for this process are not infinite, and in the not so distant future will cease. And then you'll find yourself in a more difficult predicament, I suspect. If you have been offered an appointment, it's getting increasingly more important that you take one up as soon as possible before they are withdrawn, adds Tig here. Additionally, Tig James, by the way, is who I'm talking about, if you're wondering why I keep mentioning Tig. If you've joined us just recently, this is an update message that Tig James posted on social media that I'm sharing with the Brits here tonight to deal with the post-Brexit situation, just to catch you up there. If you have been offered an appointment, it is increasingly difficult then to get one, so take it up as soon as possible before they're withdrawn. Additionally, it has been requested of CEF that appointments are made available for 2023. Appointments are released in batches and again need to be taken up prior to them being withdrawn. CEF's resources are stretched to the limit, as I was saying before, and the facility for UK nationals to obtain an appointment for a WABC, the withdrawal agreement biometric card, is something that CEF are unable to sustain indefinitely. So it looks like, yes, of course, from their point of view, they would probably prioritize other matters quite soon. They want this done and dusted, I would have thought, and then they can concentrate on the D7s, the D2s, and the digital nomad visas, etc. Learn more about those at Expats Portugal. And you can see the Expats Portugal tab on my website here that I'm reading from, where, of course, you can click through and find out well, if you need help, if you're not British and watching this and thinking, oh, maybe I'll find out about how to get a D7 here tonight, it's not the right show for that. Click through on my Expats Portugal link on the website that you can see in front of you on the screen there. And I will also put that in the show notes. Yes, I'll do that. Okay, so there we go. CEF will not be sustaining these appointments indefinitely. And finally, says Tig, could everyone please talk to their UK friends? That's what I'm doing tonight, Tig. I imagine I'm getting a nice tick. I'm getting a tick tonight for doing this. So please talk to your UK friends, relatives, acquaintances, work colleagues. Joe down the bar. Everyone's got one of those, haven't they? If it's not Joe, it's that other guy down the bar, isn't it? Every man and his dog about this situation. If necessary, please print off this post and hand it to people together with my previous posts outlining how to apply for the QR code on the Brexit portal. I'll show you that very quickly before I go, which can be done by placing my name, Tig James, in the search facility. That will be on the social media sites. The one that I pulled this from was Expats in Portugal. I honestly don't. They've had all sorts of politics going on, haven't they, on a lot of these Facebook groups? So I don't know who's who anymore. But Tig James is quite an unusual name and should be quite easy to find if you want to track Tig down and learn more about this. But this is pretty much the whole article that was cut and pasted from social media onto the Good Morning Portugal website. Okay, so look out for everybody who's a Brit who might need this help. And for those UK nationals that struggle with social media, please help them as well. She says, this is a serious situation, she concludes, where thousands Despite the fact that my next article here is the nicest McDonald's in the world on the GMP news desk, this is a serious situation where thousands of UK nationals will not be legal in Portugal if they don't register on the Brexit portal. Please, if you're hearing this and it's frightening the living bejeebers out of you, get in touch with this community or Expats Portugal. Reach out to somebody and get some help. Don't struggle alone with this. Don't do an ostrich on this. I think this is one situation where being an ostrich is not going to help. If anyone has any further feedback as to why people have not registered, please PM me. So she's looking for other situations there why people may not have bothered to go onto the portal and register themselves. Okay, TIG. TIG, thank you very much. British Embassy were really good when you had them on, Carl. It was good of TIG to post this. Absolutely right. Hiya, Pete. Oh, a bit of chat going back and forth there between everybody in the chat. Yes, how are you feeling, Carl? Merry Christmas to you and the family. Thanks, Pete. And igualmente, right back at you. Boas festas. Bom ano novo to you, Pete and Diane, and your extended, you and yours as well. Do you know, it's funny. You're saying it appears that everyone is getting sick. I reckon it was that COVID-laced mulled wine that even the homeless guy refused. Well, I was just saying to Mrs. M, this is in my own experience and in our circles, this is the most lurgified and pandemic-like I've known it. This is, including the pandemic, as it were. This at the moment, people seem to be going through all sorts of horrible things and illnesses and difficulties. And I suppose some people predicted this, didn't they? Seasonal, and the residues of COVID and every other lurgy that happens at this time of year will be hitting people. But yeah, kind of emotionally, spiritually, people going through a lot as well at the moment. So yes, thank you for asking, Pete. It is odd right now. I'm although I make a joke of it, I have had I'm calling it a man flu. I would say it's a seasonal cold, not unlike other things I've had at this time of year. And living in damp Portugal, where it's been raining for the last 300 years, that hasn't helped with the dampness recently. But yeah, a lot of people I know are poorly at the moment. So love to everybody who's struggling and not 10 out of 10 or 5 estrelas at the moment. Okay, I was alarmed to hear recently someone getting their bank account blocked. That was me, Leslie. It may have been someone else as well. That was me as well. The government shut my bank account down and put a lien on my account. Not just my bank account, but also my client. A client got in touch with me and said, we've been told we can't pay you. We've got to pay the government direct. Personally, I'm fine with that. I had settled a bill with the government the day of all of this coming to light. But they have the power to do that. They do that, and maybe for another time. But I thought I'd ask anyway. Yeah, if you join our Portugal club, we did a special on that there. I do have a video that I made about that experience. And that's what we offer with the Portugal Club is ongoing support, basically, for all of these, for the best of times and the worst of times. And I would say the two things that really seem to help people with life in Portugal is reaching out and connecting with other people who are living in Portugal and perhaps having these experiences. And the other thing is your own intelligence, right? By all means, use professionals and experts, of course, that's what they're there for. But it doesn't mean that because you've used a professional or an expert, you won't have to go far in Portugal or anywhere in the world for that matter to find a professional person that didn't quite do what you asked them to do. And it comes back to you, where, the responsibility for that, whether it's dealing with the government with your finances or buying a home. People do get let down by professionals. It happens. So ultimately, you've got to come back to your own intelligence and responsibility. And I would say getting good word of mouth recommendations from people in this community and others about who the good professionals are. And again, I would commend you to look at the Expats Portugal tab on my website here. And that will guide you to the experts in insurance, visas, currency exchange, everything that you might need. It is definitely the A team, the one-stop shop of the top professionals who live on their reputation. And I've spoken to these people for the last 2 years, and they share themselves publicly on an almost weekly basis. And you'll hear good word of mouth recommendations. And if you go to the Expats Portugal forum, you can find out for yourself that other people have had positive experiences. You're not dealing with somebody who you've just pulled out of off the internet or out of the phone, because it were, metaphorically. These are great professionals. So when you're using professionals, pick the good ones, pick the word of mouth recommendations, but it does come back to your own intelligence and responsibility, and developing confidence and competence in these matters, dealing with them with yourself, and rubbing shoulders with others in that process. And that's what our Portugal Club's all about. The people who are really serious about moving to Portugal, or wanting to, well, the basics, the nuts and bolts, certainly, of living here in Portugal and having a great life here in Portugal. And then when you've got all that sorted out, having an extraordinary life here. That's what the Portugal Club is about. And you can see that. You can see what's on offer if you hit the services tab. You'll see the Portugal Club. You'll see the consultancy and coaching we do. And we will formally help you with your post-Brexit process, if you need that help technologically. I think that's a stumbling block for a lot of people, getting online and doing it. If you want a bit of moral support and technical support with that, and help not procrastinating anymore, there's also a tab that you can click on, and we'll give you some help there. Me and Mrs. M will help you with that. But thank you for mentioning that. And my pleasure, Leslie. And Pete, everyone's dropping like flies. Fingers crossed our 5 jabs is enough. You'd think so, wouldn't you, Pete? 5 jabs and people are still dropping like flies. What does it take? Ending up looking like a dartboard, perhaps. I don't know. I really do. I honestly do not know. But I would certainly agree that you're right. And these are strange times, aren't there? A lot of what are they called? Not surplus deaths, but sudden illnesses. People dropping like flies, literally dying as well. We're losing our great heroes of our childhoods, aren't we? With all of these sudden illnesses and unaccounted for extra deaths. These are strange times indeed. And yes, for you, Pete, I do hope that fingers crossed 5 jabs are enough, and whatever else anyone else is doing to prepare themselves in these strange times as well. So thank you for being here this evening. Before I go, let me just quickly show you so you can see for yourself what the CEF portal looks like for post-Brexit Brits. Here it is. Yes, no question that this is what it does on the tin. Residence card, video there. Exchange your residence document. That will give you your QR code, and then subsequently summon you for a meeting with CEF. And I wonder if I can show you another step of this without giving too much of my own information away. But I mean, there's everything you need to get started for sure, right? What happens if I press the apply now button? There you go. I can go through, and I've already got an account, so I can log in there on the next stage of that. I'm not going to do any more, just in case I give away my details and run the risk of somebody stepping in and paying for my card for me. That's a very personal question, Paul. I find that a bit. I find vaccination status a little bit like my sexual history. But on this occasion, I'm prepared to tell you that I am heterosexual. No, I've never in my whole life had a flu jab, Paul. Not a single one of those. Did you have your flu jab? And has it helped? That might be useful information for everybody else. But no, never had a flu jab in my life. Yes, I wonder. Have you had one? This was about our Brit nationality status in Portugal rather than our vaccination status. But anyway, thanks for asking, Paul. Hello, everyone just listening in tonight. Cheers, Simon. This probably doesn't apply to you. I'm not sure, but sometimes, isn't it funny? This is my experience of doing webinars. Thursday, of course, is webinar night, isn't it? And it's interesting that people do tune in for the webinars. This to me underlines the point that it's about community and being alongside other people in similar processes. So often I've hosted webinars about a particular subject that I know people who are watching and tuning in have no need for that product or service. And what they're there for, I think, is to be in the company of others who are moving to Portugal or who are living in Portugal. So there is so much to be said for finding your tribe here in Portugal and finding your tribe among people who are also moving to Portugal. There is so much. There is... Thank you, Paul. I've just seen that. There is so much value in being in the company of others in similar processes, and that's what we love to do. Yes, Sarah Hedrick is agreeing with me there. Community is everything. I strongly agree with that. Absolutely. And it's subtle, isn't it? And it's energetic. And it's not very rational necessarily. It's just a good vibe. It's a good feeling. And yeah, those good vibes and good feelings are very important at the moment. I also have never had the flu or the jab. Oh, that's good. I would, although I'm calling this man flu, I don't think it could in any way be described as the flus people talk about. My God, no. And thankfully, I haven't had anything really debilitating like that for years. If ever, possibly listening to what some people describe as what they've been through in the last few years. Just this seasonal stuff. And I appreciate that, Paul. We're all concerned about your health, Carl. Well, I don't want it to be famous last words, I'm fine, or even the Woody Allen quote that my dad used to like, put on my tombstone, I told you I was ill. It's very sweet and kind of you, Paul, to be concerned about my health. But honestly, I just think it's a seasonal lurgy. Do you remember when we used to call it the seasonal lurgy, touch of the old flu or whatever that you would get at this time of year? And given the last few years, it's taken on a whole new meaning and suspicion and context, has it not? But I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Still well enough to get myself in this chair and in front of this camera and to do this message for you tonight. Message for British/UK nationals in Portugal. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Do spread the word, as Tig is asking you to do. Let's make sure that the Brits are legal here in Portugal, and let's help anyone who's struggling with the technological or procrastinatory challenges of getting this done. Have a great evening. I'm going to shamelessly plug my Good Morning Portugal show right now with our intro, outro. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to play this video again because I absolutely love it. This is the windmills, not of your mind. Oh, and join us tomorrow, by the way. Hold on. Before I go to the windmills of your mind, let me just share with you the slide for tomorrow. Uncle Frank and Auntie Emma will be with us tomorrow for the last show of the year, last live GMP show of the year. It's our Christmas party. Emma will be singing Christmas songs, and you can send her a lovely PayPal tip. She's incredible value. She's and I think it's really important to look after artists, performers this time of year. You know, they sing for their supper literally, and she'll be singing for hers tomorrow with us. So do come along, please, and be generous tomorrow when Emma joins us in the studio alongside me, Mrs. M, and Uncle Frank for the last live GMP show of the year. So that will be a lot of fun tomorrow morning. Join us for that, please, if you will. Oh, here's another thing. Forthcoming attractions. That's what they used to say in the cinema, isn't it? And if I could play that, forthcoming attractions then. Join the Portugal Club. If you're serious about having your best life before and after coming to Portugal, join us in the Portugal Club. This is our kind of wheel of life. And I can talk to you about some of the highlights within these highlights. You know, these are basically the 6. It's funny after that conversation talking about well-being. But anyway, these are the 6 pointers that are our guiding lights when it comes to the Portugal Club. Your well-being, sense of community, as we've all agreed is important tonight. A sense of purpose. A lot of people, I think, are not living their best life here in Portugal because they've got to peak pastel de nata and they no longer have a purpose. Retirement is a terrible thing, I would suggest to you. It's good that you retire from some of the things you didn't like in your working life, perhaps. But if you lose your purpose, that can lead to a pretty sorry state of affairs in terms of your well-being. I think it's really important. And we kindle and ignite and support people's sense of purpose at the Portugal Club. Networking, support, again, being in the company of people who are also wanting to make an incredible and extraordinary contribution to expat life here in Portugal. Love and sex, that got your attention, didn't it? In the new year, I believe, let me see, I think it's on the 9th of January. If you go to next door to Love and Sex, you'll see Life and Death, and we'll be talking to Mama Bear McGowan on a special webinar on the 9th of January, I believe, where that's all about getting your affairs in order in Portugal. How dying and death and what goes on after someone's death is treated differently in this culture, and she knows all about that and can offer support at every level, from the practical to the spiritual and the emotional. Last night, we talked to John about a beginner's guide to investing as a Portugal Club special, and he very generously talked about how he'd managed to compound 12% over a number of decades to create a retirement pot. Very, very generous with your time and insight there, John. Thank you for that. And finally then, on the 16th of January, Love and Sex. Sex for the over 60s. Actually, that needs a round of applause. We'll be talking candidly, openly about love and sex on the 16th of January in the company of Bob and Viv. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So no stone unturned. And for some of you, I know, no turn unstoned. However, we're not talking about that at the Portugal Club. We are talking about those things that I just mentioned. Join us in the new year and live your best life here in Portugal. Whether you're making your way here or you're already here, we'd love to work with you in the Portugal Club. Have a great evening. This is that video I wanted to share with you. It's a lovely, poignant moment. The windmills of San Martinho de Porto, and our invitation to you, our ongoing invitation to you. Have a great evening, and bye for now. Perhaps see you in the morning. Ciao, ciao. Smile.